I can't believe this is really happening, but the Toronto Raptors actually have the chance to be the first team in NBA history to come back from being down 3-0 in a playoff series, as they have all the momentum in the world with absolutely nothing to lose. They still have a long way to go, but it's most certainly in the air that the pressure has now been placed on the 76ers not to mess this one up, as they could go down as the biggest laughingstock in the league if they are able to choke the series away. This series is now 3-2 in favor of the 76ers, but after the win in Philadelphia last night, this series is now heading to Game 6 in Toronto, and this means that Matisse Thybulle will once again be unable to play in that game because he's not fully vaccinated. But lucky enough for Philly, with the way he played last night, this is a blessing in disguise for them. Siakam has found his groove for the Raps, and you can just tell how important his all-NBA level of play is for this team. Being able to count on him in that star role when you need that go-to bucket, or simply just that guy on your team to settle the game down and take control, especially when the other star vet on the roster in Van Vliet had to miss Game 5 with his hip injury. Also, only a small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed, so if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. It's free and it helps me out a ton. The thing is, and this isn't meant to discredit anything Fred has done for this team, as I seriously love everything about him, but the Raptors have actually been much better in this series without him on the floor, and that primarily has to do with the lack of size he brings to the court, specifically because of the size and length the 76ers have, making his matchups a constant mismatch defensively. Van Vliet playing against Philly has always been incredibly difficult for him in the playoffs, and we saw just that in the last series they had against each other that went to Game 7 and Kawhi hit that shot. But it's a mix of this lack of size and obviously the fact that he's been hurt this entire time and fighting through it that has hurt the Raptors tremendously. Surprisingly, the Raptors have been over 20 points per 100 possessions better defensively without Van Vliet on the floor, so if the Raptors don't have him for Game 6, it's not going to be the end of the world like we saw in Game 5, but obviously if he's healthy, I'm sure Nick Nurse can figure something out with him to make him as effective as possible while still keeping this incredible length together that they've thrown out there in the 2 wins they've racked up, and maybe seeing him come off the bench would be a premium for Toronto in this series to come onto the court when the 76ers take out Embiid. There is no Van Vliet slander in this video, as the 5th seed in the playoffs wouldn't even be possible without Van Vliet this season. I'm just talking specifically about his limitations this series, changing things up with him if he's healthy to try and figure out a secret recipe, because the numbers do not lie right now. The Toronto Raptors are simply just better with this version of Van Vliet off the court. But other than that, no matter who is out there on the floor, Siakam is going to need to continue these efforts, as the 76ers backs are up against the wall right now, and they've simply had no answer for him, as they just don't have the quickness to stay in front of Siakam, and it's definitely showing. You can just tell that with nothing to lose in this series anymore, the Raptors are finally playing freely, and this has resulted in very strong contributions on this roster, as not a single person should be too upset if the Raptors do end up losing this series, as the hole they were dug into has been historically impossible to get out from. Me, for one, am so impressed with the way they've been able to bounce back and show this young group that they will not go out without a fight, playing hurt, playing undermanned, and this is going to go a long way for the future development of this team. And even then, this series is not even close to over, as you can just tell that the Raptors know the position they're in, being on the verge of making history, where once again, if they do end up losing, it's not the end of the world, as they statistically aren't even given a chance to win the series anyways, and they know the pressure is on Doc Rivers and Philadelphia to not become the team on the other end of this incredible comeback story that has never been done before in the history of the NBA. I'm already impressed enough with the way they've managed to come back so far, and if they were to lose, obviously that would be a huge blow for this group, yet they could still let go of this season with their heads high, knowing they gave Philly a run for their money, with their sights set on just how good this group can become in just a couple of years if they end up staying together. On to the performances from last night. The Rookie of the Year, Scottie Barnes, had a solid night on both ends of the court, considering he is playing hurt, and this is what you love to see out of your rookie, doing whatever it takes to get out there and try to help your team win in the playoffs, as he racked up 3 steals and even a no-look lob to Achua late in the 4th to put the salt in the wound to show just how loose the Raptors are playing right now. OG needs to have a better night shooting threes in Game 6, as he missed a ton of open shots that could have put this game to rest a lot earlier than it did, but him and Gary both came up huge defensively with 2 steals of their own and are showing that if Gary Trent was healthy in Games 1 and 2, where he wasn't clearly incredibly ill in those games, this series would be much different, as he plays a very large role on this team both on offense and defense. This starting group of guys, with the help of Achua, Thad, and Boucher, have been causing nightmares defensively with their length for Philly, as this is looking like exactly the type of play we expected at the start of the year from this group, with the direction of this team moving towards athletic forwards with absolutely incredible wingspans, as they're just able to switch on every play without any repercussions. And you can tell that this is frustrating the hell out of Philadelphia right now, not being able to generate mismatches and take advantage of them. Speaking of these 3 lads off the bench, Achua had one of the best games of his careers, speaking that he had multiple dunks late in the game that didn't allow the 76ers to generate any momentum for a comeback. Thad and Boucher finished it all off as the role players, as it was the defensive game plan with them coming into the game as laterally quick bigs to swarm Embiid whenever he got the ball down low, that made the 76ers uncomfortable as they tried to pass out of that situation time and time again, but the Raptors just did a better job defensively, switching out onto the perimeter to stop them from getting open 3-point attempts. The 76ers just haven't looked like themselves for whatever reason, whether that be because of Embiid's injury to his thumb, the fact that the game is finally being officiated much more evenly, or just the fact that they were way too comfortable being up 3-0 in the series. But nonetheless, this Toronto Raptors team is hungry and determined to continue putting the pressure on Philly, as if this series goes to Game 7, I think it's the Raptors series to lose at that point, with all of the talk that's going to surround the 76ers collapse, as I can confirm jobs will be lost if they don't end up winning this series. Going into this series, Toronto was in a position where any success they managed to obtain in the playoffs would be added gravy to their potatoes, as they are a very, very young group of guys with a tremendous amount of upside, but it is clear that they aren't quote-unquote supposed to win it all this year, where on the other hand, Philly made a blockbuster trade at the deadline to acquire Harden. Embiid's having an MVP season where those 2 alone have the headlines surrounding them supposed to be contenders all over the place, especially since they have more talent on top of just those 2. But now, once again, as it's clear this team does not look ready, even with all the talent they possess, this series would absolutely destroy Doc Rivers' legacy if they end up losing, considering he already has 3 3-1 blown series in his career, and this would make that even worse, becoming the first coach in NBA history to lose being up 3-0 in a series, and this would haunt him for eternity and could very well be the beginning of the end for his coaching position with Philadelphia. Harden's legacy would tumble as well, being that he hasn't been able to have any sustained playoff success with his great resume full of accolades, and he's had a horrible time scoring the ball this series and providing any legitimate help to Philadelphia, as he could potentially be labeled as a playoff choker for the rest of time, with his clock of him performing at a high level coming to a close. On top of the fact that he requested a trade from the Nets, who did just get swept, but nonetheless he made it clear he wanted a change of scenery and wanted to win a ring, and this would put a dent in all of those aspirations. Embiid's prime would yet again have another year wasted losing to Toronto, and honestly the fact that Harden isn't signed through next season, although I do believe he'll stay with the team, it could still leave a whole lot of chaos on the table for Philly this offseason, as they would yet again have another season to forget. Overall, the Philadelphia 76ers are a team with so much to lose, as this season is definitely one where they should, on paper, be in contention to win it all, but they're up against a strong Raptors team built for this moment with all of the minutes given to the starting group of guys on this team earlier in the year, and they've turned this series that was once thrown away with a sweep written all over it to something that could now go down as one of the greatest comebacks in the modern history of sports. With all that being said in this video, let me know who you think is going to be the X factor for Toronto down below in the comments to help them capitalize on the momentum they've generated through games 4 and 5. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope we can witness the history that has the potential to be dropped on us, as most of the NBA world is going to start hopping on the Raptors side as well. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great night.